Hi, guys. Welcome back to Schmooze the podcast. My name is Jonathan. I'm your host. Tonight, we are hanging out with Jordan.
Yes, you are.
Yes, one of our really good friends. I feel like I say that on every episode, like, meet my really good friend, but these are all my really good friends.
Because you got a lot of good friends.
I do, but I think I don't have any more podcast episode left. I only got 4 friends.
Well, I'm happy.
So I'm just playing. But we came down to Jordan tonight. Y'all can see we got a little different scenery. You're not getting the white couch with the white walls tonight. We came to San Diego to hang out with Jordan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This one's going to be really fun, but this one's also going to be really intimate. And I feel like very relatable for a lot of people. Not that the other episodes weren't, but obviously the last couple of episodes have been more geared towards like my relationship with the other co-hosts. So like my relationship with Ari, Sean, and Bree. But this time we will talk about our relationship as well. But I really want to shift the focus over to you and just to let people get to know who Jordan is. I want to get to know you through the show. So I'm going to let you take the floor and just kind of like, I guess just start off to when you first got to San Diego. Like, who is Jordan?
Sure. Well, first of all, just want to say I'm glad to be here. So thank you guys for making the drive to come see me.
Absolutely.
So
we was ready.
And I guess I can give a little backstory on myself and how I got to San Diego because I'm not from here. I got here about 8 years ago. I grew up in the desert. So I grew up about 2 hours away. Super small town. My high school, went to high school with maybe about 300 kids in total. So
like from all grades total?
All grades. I graduated with a class of 68 people.
Wow.
Yeah, so came from pretty much like nothing to a big city.
Yeah.
But I always knew when I was younger, I wanted to be in the city. I wanted to be in the nightlife and get out, you know. It just always felt so glamorous to me.
Yeah.
So 2016 is when I made the move. Came out here, didn't really know what I was going to do. It was supposed to be a summer.
Yeah.
Then it turned into 8 years. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be exactly where I am in my life today.
What was the plan when you wanted to come out here just to spend the summer? Like, what were you going to do?
Yeah, so actually, funny story. I was going to school. I was going to go to school in Arizona to be a nurse. I had gotten accepted to university. I was going for pre-nursing. And I just came to San Diego to stay with relatives for the summer, and I was supposed to be out here for 3 months. But I needed a break. I had so much going on in my life at the time. I didn't really know if I wanted to take it in that direction. So I ended up saying to myself, let me take a year off.
From school.
So from school.
Yeah.
I didn't jump straight into it. Then a year turned into 8. But like I said, I feel like things just happen for a reason. I feel like if I would have went that route, I probably would have been a little bit unhappy in my life. Maybe I wouldn't have felt content with what I'm doing. I definitely wouldn't be sitting here in a room being interviewed, asking questions, answering them.
Yeah. So when you came down here for the summer, did you just not go back home?
I just didn't go home.
So you just stayed.
I just stayed.
And then what happened? So when it was time for the trip to be over and you were staying with your family, what did that transition look like? So how did you go from that to staying permanently?
Okay, so trip out on this. So I came out here when I was 18. I got into my first serious relationship around August. I met this guy. I was talking to this guy. Him and I dated for about 3.5 years. So primarily half of my time, I guess, being in San Diego, I spent with him. So I didn't go back because I met somebody and I fell in love with him.
Right.
And
gotcha.
I stayed out here and I pursued it, and it took me in different directions. And we had a wonderful and a great foundation, and we pushed each other in different directions. He was doing amazing in his job. He was going to school. He graduated. I got to see him go through his pillars in his life, and he got to see me do the same thing. So I went from being basically nobody to jumping into different roles and having different achievements. And so that really just kept me out here in San Diego, kept me grounded. Then after that didn't work out, I went and kind of just jumped into a whole nother career.
Yeah. And then now you're just like flourishing.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I got my days.
Yeah, but everybody does. So I feel like I'm just thinking about the timeline you were talking about. So if that was 2016.
2016.
And then you were in that relationship for 3 years,
Yeah.
which means that it was almost 2020 when it ended.
Correct.
So I met you like right after that.
You did.
Yeah.
You met me right after, and then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that was another big thing in my
Yeah.
life too. Like, I mean, it was big for everybody. Everybody was
Right.
going through their own things, but
How'd you spend your COVID? What'd you do?
oh my God, one, I ate a lot. Two,
Yeah.
I shopped a lot, which I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But some things just never changed.
Right. Because that habit is still around.
That habit is still around. The eating, I've been a little bit better, but
Mm-hmm.
the shopping, not so much. Anyways, but with COVID, I just really, that was a big moving part of my life. That was a really big turning point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what and how? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so during COVID, it was a lot of self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I came in basically into tune with my new identity, who
Mm-hmm.
I was. That was the first time I looked at myself in the mirror and I knew that I wanted to transition, and I knew I wasn't happy in my original body. So I made certain changes, and I really just took the time to really zone in, focus, recenter, and then just start from scratch.
Yeah.
I was building a brand new person.
Mm-hmm. And it's been so cool to watch.
I feel like every 6 months it's a different person. So yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that because
No,
you're staying
definitely.
true to you. You know, you're
Yeah.
doing exactly what you want to do instead of, you know, transitioning multiple times into who everybody else wants you to be. You're
Absolutely.
just going in a direction where it's like you are consistently like elevating more into yourself.
For sure. And there's been a lot of people that have like jumped on for the ride too. You know what I mean? I've met you and D'Angelo, and we've blossomed and had a wonderful relationship. I mean, we're still great friends today.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of my other friends that I've known before COVID or even during that time when I started transitioning, they're still here. And
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm blessed and grateful to say that.
Yeah. And it has been really cool too, because like as your friend, like you have taught me a lot too through like what you're going through in your transition. Like I learned very early on. I remember when we first met, I didn't know at all that you were transitioning or that you were thinking, but like there was really no hints of it because who you were before as Sal, you were just so confident as him too.
Absolutely.
Like so confident. And then I remember we were hanging out for a little while, for like a couple of months. And I remember one day we went to like a hookah lounge, and that was like the first time you introduced yourself to me, like as Jordan.
Yeah.
But it was so like, it was pivotal for me too, because I remember seeing you that day and not thinking anything of it. Like I remember being like, this is the same genuine person on the inside. And like, I didn't really question like what was going on. I was like, okay, well, if this is what she wants to do, then all I can do is support it and be
Right.
here, you know. And that's how it's been like years now at this point. Yeah.
And for a long time, I mean, even when I was in high school, I was cross-dressing. I had the wigs, I did the makeup, and, you know, my career from the beginning kind of just helped me open up those layers of Jordan
Yeah.
and who she was as a person. And when I came out to my friends, it wasn't really a surprise. It was kind of like, you know, you've always been this person all
Right.
along. It just you needed to blossom and find yourself.
Sorry, I had to shift a little bit.
Other than that, like, just who I am today was not who I was in 2020, and
Right.
not anybody I was in 2016. So I'm happy.
Yeah. How has that been for you, like professionally? Like, how do people, like, what's your experience like being who you are
In the
publicly
luxury
in the
industry.
luxury industry?
Yeah, so when I joined Cartier, I actually joined as Sal. So I was working as a gay male. I was in a different position at the time, and I was doing more of a role in behind the scenes, more background, right? So I wasn't client facing. When I transitioned into a new role, about a month or two before, I transitioned as Jordan. So not only was I transitioning in my social life, but I was transitioning in my professional life. And that was a really big thing. It was more about introducing myself to my old team at the same time, like getting people to be like, okay, like,
And respect you.
Exactly.
Did you have to demand that respect, or did people kind of latch on immediately?
No, not really, because it just like my friends were like, oh, it was never a surprise to my colleagues and coworkers. It wasn't a surprise either.
Yeah.
It just kind of was like, makes sense. Okay, I could have seen that coming in a
Yeah.
way. They're working in luxury and just working in retail in general. There's moments where you may be misgendered as a person, and that happens. That's just human nature. Some people just don't know what you're identifying as. It's 2023. There's a lot of fucking alphabets and everything. So
let's pause there for a second, because this is always a topic that I really love getting into, especially because I don't know. I like to think that we're just gonna get into it.
Jump right in.
What are your thoughts around how, and I'm going to say this as carefully as I can, but also it is what it is.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts around how like sensitive the gay community and like the trans community can be when it comes to the way that people either respond to them or accidentally misgendering them? Now, obviously, purposely being disrespectful is a totally different thing.
Sure.
But what are your thoughts around like the way that our community sometimes can respond in ways that instead of like trying to understand where the other person may be coming from, immediately they feel attacked, and immediately they feel like they need to defend themselves, as opposed to like trying to understand?
For me, I've lived different lives. So, I lived a life as a gay male. I'm currently living my life as a trans woman. However, I've always, and thank you for bringing this up, because my brother is actually non-binary.
Really?
And they came out as being non-binary a year ago. So it's something I'm still, kind of getting used to, because pronouns are such a big thing nowadays. We had an organic conversation a week ago where, I misgendered them. It was an accident, of course, and didn't come from a bad place in my heart or soul. However, I explained to them, this is something that I'm learning as I'm going. I've also wanted society to accept my own new pronouns and whatnot. What I've explained to them was, you're going to have those moments in your life where somebody's going to see you and not know who or what you are. Where you want to come from is a compassionate place in your heart.
Right.
You want to be compassionate. You want to come from a place where you're educating someone without being combative, because that's the big thing,
Right. I actually just, not to cut you off, but I was actually telling D'Angelo I had this experience at work recently. And so in this workspace that I'm in, I'm the only Black person at all, not just Black man, but I'm the only Black person at all. And I'm the only, from what I know, the only openly gay person. Nobody else. I'm very like, I just got married to a man in Paris. Like I've not heard anybody else say that. But with that being said, I recently was in a meeting with someone and I got called aggressive for something that was not aggressive. Like we were just having a conversation about something, and one of my colleagues who I manage wasn't performing the way that I was expecting, the way that I was told that they were going to perform. So I called it out.
Right.
And that sometimes you can't say things a certain way. Like sometimes there's not a nice way to say things. Sometimes you just got to cut it off, and it is what it is. And that's what I did. Get straight to the point. Like there was no nice way to say it. And when I brought up to leadership what had happened, instead of being supported and being like, I'm sorry that, this person wasn't like performing well or the way you thought, it backfired on me. And they were like, well, maybe if you weren't so aggressive in the way that you approached it. And I'm a very mindful person. So I thought about it. I was like, was I aggressive? I even went back to this person and asked them, I didn't apologize because there's nothing to apologize for, but I went back to this person and I said, do you feel like the way that I communicate with you in this space is aggressive? And if so, can you give me an example? And he was like, no, I don't. So I went back to the person that called me aggressive and asked, and she was just like, well, sometimes like you just need to think about like the words that you do use. And I asked her again, give me an example. She didn't have one, but they're not going to say it, but it's a microaggression. And I feel like we deal with that in the gay community, in the trans community, where like they don't really want to say what they want to say. So they find other ways to dehumanize you with other words, So not to take that away from you, but it just kind of triggered that thought
No, totally.
in my head.
Totally.
Do you deal with that? Like, do you feel like people cast like microaggressions against you, or do you just not give a fuck?
I've always been a straight shooter.
Yeah.
Like I see something, I'm gonna say what I want to say
Right.
when I want to say it.
Right.
However, I know how to handle myself in a professional setting, and I know how to, use my words and get the point across, and
Right. Same.
not call somebody out of their name or make somebody feel insulted in any way. But being in a professional setting sometimes and being part of the LGBT community, I feel like we've had our trials and our tribulations and our aggressions that have come out at different times, and sometimes it's hard to contain that. But you know what? If you can come from a place where you're open to constructive feedback, and you're a listener, take that conversation and have it and keep it moving.
And don't take it personally. Because that's one of the biggest things that just really pisses me off, and is one of my biggest pet peeves, is how quickly people take things personally, especially when you don't understand the context.
Right.
90% of the time, I feel like when you are triggered by something because you don't understand the context. So the things you don't understand piss you off the most, and then you sit and have that conversation with the person that said whatever, and then you understand the context. You're like, damn, why did I get mad about that? And that's like, most of the time, like, we could save ourselves the emotional turmoil if we just really kept our emotions out of it at the beginning of it.
Agreed.
Now, if you get the context that you needed and it pisses you off even more, then you have all right to
feel the way you want to feel.
But you should, so. But not, I'm sorry, I took that off course. But
okay.
So let's jump back into it, because you were really getting to a good place. So you started at Cartier, and then you came out as Jordan, a trans woman, to your coworkers.
Right.
So, like, what was that experience like?
So all my coworkers are hella cool. Like, everyone is dope as hell. I am the youngest person in my industry and in my company by maybe 10 years in a sales role. I can't speak on every single role because I don't know what their teams look like.
Right.
However, my team is awesome. I mean, from day one and from where we are now, like, nothing has changed. There's not that I'm aware of, but there's never been any side conversations. I've never felt like a cold shoulder or anything else. Everybody just came on board and was like, all right, like, we're rolling with it. And
even management, like some of the older people?
My management loves me.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, I'm very blessed,
Yeah.
Besides the job, sometimes there's some bullshit, but most of the time it's just some client bullshit. It's not really like
people you're never gonna see again.
Exactly.
Most of the time.
You brush that shit off, you keep it moving. But I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at in my career. I feel great in my personal life, and I can't say that anybody has ever acted out or given me any sort of reason to push away from them in my job.
Do you feel like you're having that experience because it's positive karma? Do you think that because you're such a good person and because you are so genuine in who you are, that's just what you attract?
You know what? Yes and no, because sometimes I self-sabotage, and I feel like I have imposter syndrome, where I feel like I'm, people say that to me. I've had great relationships, and I've been able to, like, organically connect with people, new people also, and they tell me, like, oh my God, I love your vibe. You're so chill. You're so easy to talk to. I would have never really assumed that if I were to look at you. But sometimes when I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay, like, that's great to hear. But then I dwell on that, and I'm like, am I really this person? Am I pretending to be this person? Like,
So are you one of those people that it's hard for you to accept gifts?
No, baby.
You're not.
The gifts. Like, give me all the gifts.
Yeah, because usually, though, I say that because usually people who have a hard time accepting compliments can't accept gifts.
No, I can accept gifts. I'm terrible at accepting compliments.
Yeah.
I almost kind of get, like, in a shell a little bit. Like, when I get compliments from somebody, I start to, like, I don't know how to respond. Like, a thank you is, one way, but you start being like, okay. Like, I get in my shell, kind of crouch down and get
I do
small.
that too, because especially if, like, the compliment, they won't stop.
Oh my God.
Like, I love like, oh my God, I love your outfit, or oh my God.
Compliment.
Yeah, but you look cute. Bye. Don't keep adding layers to the compliment, because now I don't want to talk to you anymore. And, like, not in a mean way, but it's just like, I don't know what to say, because what if I don't want to? We're not gonna go there, but you were talking about your personal life. You say your personal life is great, right? So you want to tell us about like what it's like being married?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not? I'm speaking to somebody that's newly married, so I might as well.
This ain't about me. You at the beginning of the episode, I said this is about Jordan.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been married for a year. This month.
Oh wow.
My favorite month.
What are y'all gonna do?
We actually, what's crazy is we just chilled. Like we went out to a mom and pop restaurant.
Did it already pass?
It did.
Oh, yeah.
October 5th was our anniversary. That was
Dope.
our first year. We've been together for 3 years. We've been married for 1. And we just chilled. We took it really, like we both worked that day. It was like a Thursday or something. We were both really tired, but that Friday we had off, and we ended up going to we have this spot in Barrio Logan, and it's a Salvadorian restaurant, and it's owned by a wife and a husband.
Really?
And their whole family serves there. It's so cute.
What is it called?
It's called what is it called? El Salvadoreño. That's what it's called.
In Barrio Logan?
In Barrio Logan. So if you guys are ever in the area, please check it out.
Well, we're hungry, so after this,
you might.
Right.
We've been going there for the whole time we've been in a relationship and knowing each other. And so we were like, let's just go there. We know it's going to be good food. We've been there enough times to where we're familiar. They recognize who we are. So that's what we did. We celebrated by going to dinner and just hanging out at home and enjoying each other's company. I mean, working with people. And sometimes you just want to step back for a little bit. And just have your partner and enjoy him and, put a cute movie on at home. We are planning a vacation, but it's not going to be something until next year. Yeah. I just have a couple things on my agenda at the moment. Yeah. That's not work related. So I need to really focus on that right now.
That's dope though. That's very admirable. I feel like me and D'Angelo are like that too. We're very just you just want to go eat.
Let's do it.
And go home and lay down. Because during the year we take so many trips, so we do, and you do too. I feel like you're always somewhere. I
try to be.
Yeah, you got to be. If I'm not at work, let's go somewhere.
Exactly.
A trip a quarter is what I like to do. A trip every 3 months. And it ain't got to be nothing too crazy, but that's dope. I that year feels like it just flew by.
It really did.
Yeah, because I remember when you posted them pictures, and I was like, what are y'all doing? Yeah, and you were like, we got married.
We did. We knew we wanted to get married.
I want to hear that story. So how did that happen? How did you go? How did you get, what was the engagement process like? Did y'all just have that conversation? It was like, do you want to get married?
Damn, we didn't even get, he didn't even ask me, there was nothing crazy fancy where he was, on one hand and one knee, and he had, the little box and everything else. It wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
Honestly, we were just talking, and it was a suggestion, and you know what? I'm genuinely happy with my husband. I love him. Yeah. He is amazing. Yeah. This is the first time I've ever felt like my partner has loved me way more, and not in a selfish way. I'm not coming from a place where I don't want to love my partner 100%, but he takes care of me, and he provides a lot of acts of service, and that's something that I need and something that I can appreciate. And us getting married just made the perfect sense. Yeah, he comes from a wonderful family. His family's accepting. That's something I've always wanted. I've had trouble with my own family. So I wanted somebody that came from a good foundation, and he was that man, And so that's what happened.
Were his folks just out here recently? Didn't they come?
They came to visit us in August. It was cute. They stayed a couple minutes away. We and his family's so relaxed too. That's what I love. The year before, when I had met his family officially, I went and I made reservations at this nice restaurant. I wanted it to be white tablecloth and, champagne being poured and everything else. And I started to realize, I'm they're not even those kind of people. They are very much, the last time they were here, we went to a sports bar. We watched a football game. Yeah. I'm not a football fan, but if that's what they want to do, I'm going to do it. Yeah. It was cute. It was great. It felt really nice to just bond as a family again. Yeah.
So what I was saying was it's so cool to watch you and RJ what's really cool is watching him look at you sometimes, like when we all go out to eat and stuff like that. Like that man really adores you. Like, and you can see it, and he's so genuine. Like even the way that like he like is like with us when you bring him around, like he's not one thing I can't stand when I'm around my friends is like significant other or whatever is when they just like tap out, when they're just like not really involved, or they kind of, and I totally understand like there's a time and a place, like if there's like, for instance, when it's just like me and you, like I can understand if like they're like, okay, I'm gonna give y'all's time. Right. But when you're like in a group setting, one of my main pet peeves is when like the other person wants to just like not be involved, but he is so not like that.
They don't now go into that thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that of him, and that's really good for you. Like it's really good that you have somebody who genuinely like adores you, because you can tell he does. Because earlier when we walked in the house, I was like, where you get these flowers from? He was like, my man sent them to my job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As he should.
Right. Right. But you deserve it. You deserve it. Earlier we were talking about how like you really admire being able to spend time with his family. So like what was that like? If you want to talk about it, you don't have to. Totally. But like what was it like for you when you came out as trans to your family? And like what has that been like?
Okay, so that's a totally different conversation. Let's see. All right, so piggybacking on the previous conversation that we had about me moving out here, I actually I was kicked out of my house when I was 17, about 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. I remember. I had never told my family that I was gay. I never came out to them. It was something that like everybody knew, but they never talked about it type situation. And so my grandma and I, we got into this big conversation, because I was actually raised by my grandparents. My grandma and my grandpa, they both raised me. And my mom was always in and out. She was always on drugs. She was a mess. Love her, but love her from a distance.
Right.
You know? So my grandparents have always been like the main pillars in my life, and they grew up very Christian. They were both youth leaders. They grew up in the church. We grew up in the church. I mean, I was always going to church. I was going to church on Monday nights.
You was a church girl.
Church on Sundays, baby, and was. But like I was never religious. Like when I went to church, I didn't really tune into it. And now that I'm like who I am, and as an adult, because of the outcome of that situation, it pushed me so far from religion. I'm a spiritual person. I believe what you put out there is what you attract.
Right.
But I can't label myself a Christian. I wouldn't label myself in any sort of religion specifically. So when I told my grandma, we got into an argument. I told her, I was like, you know what, like I felt like there's been this big elephant in the room that we're not addressing, and I know that the reason why you treat me different is because I'm gay. And that was the first time I've ever put that out there, and vocally said that. Yeah. And so when I said that, she, kind of came back and was like, what? Like, how could you say that? How could you be that? Like, and it came down to something where she was just like, I don't believe in it. I don't stand for it. I don't support it. And then it was basically me being escorted out the house. I moved in with my best friend. Yep, same night. I had gotten off of practice, and I came home. We got into that argument. An hour later, I was packing my shit and getting the fuck out of there.
Was that the last time you lived with her?
That was the last time I lived there.
So like that night when you left, you never went back?
I never went back. About a month and a half later, I graduated high school. I didn't even talk to my family. I didn't even know if they were going to go to my graduation.
Did they?
They did.
Yeah.
I went. I remember that was probably the saddest part of my life. That was the saddest part of my life. I had a half day that day that I graduated.
You still had to go to school the day you
I
graduated?
still did. We went to school until 12. We practiced, and then we ended up going home. We practiced a little.
What was there to
graduation
practice
ceremony.
if you was leaving the
walking and
school?
shit,
Oh, that kind of practice. I
Like
was like,
that
you was
kind of
playing baseball? Like,
No, it was that kind of practice. Like we
Okay.
went in, practice how we're gonna like walk in, who's gonna go, how
Yeah.
you're gonna move through the ceremony.
right.
So I went home and I was living with my best friend. I called my best friend that night. I was like, girl, I need a place to stay. Like, if you could please, do me a favor. Without even saying more than like a couple words, she was like, I'm on my way. So she picked me up and I was living with her and her mom. And her mom has been amazing. Like, she's been a rock, swear to God. And
Are y'all still close today?
we talk in there. We don't talk that much because of life.
But there's love.
But there's love there.
Yeah.
And when we talk, we catch up. So they picked me up and I stayed with them. So remember going home and like I said, that was the saddest day of my life because I had gone home and everybody's family that was coming from out of state and visiting, like they were living there or staying there for the weekend, sorry. And everyone was going out to like grab lunch and, do all these family things right before they're about to basically commence into like the most important chapter of their life. And I'm in my best friend's, room crying my eyes out, being like, damn, I wish I was with my family celebrating this, but I wasn't. And so I think that's why 3 days later, I packed all my shit, not because I had a choice, but because I was like, listen, this is the next part of my life. Like, and going back to what I said, I needed a year off from school is because of all of that. And so, after about a year, we patched up our relationship, went back home, healed, dealt with that. I didn't go home for like a year. I went back for a Thanksgiving. And I saw my parents and everything else. And, it was good. And then after a year or two, like I came out as trans and I thought being gay was going to be the hardest part of my life, but that was just the beginning. It didn't start getting hard until I said I was going to be this new person. And now I haven't talked to my family in 3 years.
Really?
It's been 3 years.
Well, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember there was a point in time where like I think you got on like your Insta story or something. You were talking about like when you had first like came out or something, when you came out as trans. And didn't your mom or somebody like publicly comment on Facebook or something?
So it's the day I got married.
The day you got married.
So the day I got married, this breaks my heart, honestly, to talk about this. But the day I got married, I put on Facebook, that I had gotten married. I changed my name. My mom, which me and her had always had like an in and out relationship. We would be good and then we wouldn't be good. And it wasn't because of me. It was just because, like drugs changes a person. And to be on drugs, you have so many different personalities and stuff. And I wanted to pull back from that.
Yeah.
So there was moments where I didn't talk to her. There was moments where we were really good and we kept it moving. But my mom was like, why didn't you tell anybody you were getting married? I said, you know what? To be honest, I didn't really feel like it was anybody's business. Like, I've really been there for myself the last 6 years of my life. And nobody's really asked me how I'm doing. So why was I going to check in with anybody else?
Right.
And tell them, I'm getting married on this day. Like, I want you to be there. It's like, why would I want somebody to be there if they were never there in the beginning? Or they weren't there before?
Right.
And this is a big moment in my life. This is when I'm supposed to be like the happiest, I was a bride and walking down. I had a beautiful dress on and everything else. I was marrying a man that I love. And she sent me this message that I had to read like 3 times because I was like, I don't know if I'm reading this right.
Yeah.
Her message read, well, I hope you're not deciding to change your sex because you'll never have an orgasm again in your life. And I remember reading that, and I'm sitting at, this is after I got married, I'm sitting at lunch with my new husband. We're having a great time, having amazing food. And I'm telling him, like, okay, his family's saying how happy they are for us.
Yeah.
They're saying, wow, we wish we could have been in California. Wow, we would have loved to celebrate that moment with you guys. Wish you a lot of success. Wish you a lot of happiness. And here my mom is sitting on Facebook Messenger writing this message saying that I'm never going to have an orgasm in my life. And I said, you know what, Mom? I have multiple orgasms. Okay. So that is nobody's business but me and my partners.
Right.
And we have an amazing sex life. And any of that, like, nobody's business.
Right.
So that hurt me. And I went probably about a year and a half, maybe. I mean, I still don't really talk to my mom because of it. I remember sharing that story with him, and he was like, wow, I can't believe that. And I was like, yeah, this is the woman.
Has he ever met her?
He's never met her.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, I don't think I'll ever introduce him to
Yeah.
her, too, because I have everything I need. I have my pillars. I got my friends. I got a great job. I have a wonderful husband. His family is amazing. And that's all I need right now.
Yeah.
I don't need any bit more. I don't think I can handle anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to take it on.
Yeah.
So me and my peace is where I'm going to be at.
Yeah. That's heavy, but you look like you're, I mean, obviously, you know.
Well, shit, I've had my dark days too.
Yeah,
I have
like
my
anybody
days.
else. Yeah.
You know, I got my days where I'm like, shit, I wish life was different. I wish I, had this moment and stuff and been able to go home for the holidays and do all that. But for what? Like,
Right.
to pretend to be happy, to pretend to be somebody I'm not. Like, being exactly who I am, being Jordan and being in my truth and walking in my truth every single day, like, this got me pretty fucking far, and I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna keep it pushing.
Yeah. And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry that happened to you, because that seems like a very common theme with a lot of people in our community is like, you know, that's usually like the experience that they have, you know. But I'm really happy though that your husband's family has like taken you in as your own, because chosen family is just as important as blood family.
Absolutely.
If not more important, because it can really save somebody's life.
My chosen family has gotten me so much further than my actual family.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful relationship with my siblings. They're great. The one thing I always told myself before anything was, if I have it, they have it. Like, if I can take care of them, I'm gonna take care of them.
Yeah.
You know, my brother, he's in school, and my sister, like, she's in school and everything else, and we have there's four of us. So we're all just kind of trying to get through life, and we've been each other's like pillar and backbone, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that at the end of the day, like, that relationship with them has stayed consistent, and that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
Everything else after that.
Yeah. Because, you know, you don't get to really choose any of your blood family, but I'm a firm believer that, like, the two people you really don't get to choose are your mom and your dad. But with that being said, you don't have to deal with their bullshit.
Absolutely not.
You know, you don't. And the fact that you've chose to separate the relationship that you have with your parents and still continue to have a healthy relationship with your siblings says a lot, because it's not that, you know, they've probably heard the stuff about you that your family said, but the fact that they've chosen to still love you from their own hearts, and you still, you know, that says a lot about a person. Because, you know, most people, or not most people, but there's a lot of people who, when one person in the family says something, they cut the whole family off.
Right.
Yeah, and you didn't do that, you know, because, yeah, family can be something.
Yeah,
I definitely
can't
got
pick
some
'em,
too.
so.
You can't, but, you know, I'm proud of you, and, you know, life is never meant to be easy, but sometimes it is harder on others as compared to other people, but
I wouldn't have it any other way.
yeah.
I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I think every chapter of my life has been pushing me to the next chapter and opening up all these doors that I never knew were possible. And
Yeah.
every time, like, sometimes I reflect and I think, like, 6 months ago, like, I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this, or I want to experience that. And I do experience that. And, you know, and life does open up to me, and I'm grateful. I've had a lot of blessings, and life's been very giving towards me.
Yeah. And yeah, I can tell. You seem happy. Yeah. So what do you think is like next? Like, what is the next, like, 6 months look like for you?
The next, in all honesty, the next 6 months, you know, I went through, like, all my meds, and I'm continuing doing that. But the next 6 months of my life is going to probably be like one of the most challenging physically, because I'll be doing like most of my procedures and everything else. And I'm excited for it. You know,
I'm really excited to see what the next 6 months looks like for you.
Oh, you and me both, sis.
Yeah, it's gonna be cute. It's gonna be tea.
good.
Yeah, I just want you to know that, like, you know, you're supported. And me and D'Angelo are always here, and we love you guys. And you know, just to kind of like wrap it, like, obviously what you've gone through is really unfortunate, and it's also really unfortunate that a lot of people have the same story as you, but. You know, just keep climbing, be positive, and just kind of like look at it and record it in your history as like, this happened to me, but this is not who I am. And
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
and I think you know that.
Yes, baby. We paving the way. It's, you know, no story is bigger than anybody else's. So
Right.
we just taking it. It's up from here.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
So when you get done with all the stuff you're about to go through over the next 6 months, we got to do a part 2.
Oh, and let it be known there will be a part 2.
Yes,
Okay.
part 2. Next time we'll do it somewhere like, even though this was dope, we'll do it. We'll try to find another scene too. So
Yeah,
it'll
let's
be like
make it.
switching it up.
Perfect.
But I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm
Schmooze
so
the
grateful.
podcast with
Yes.
Jordan.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share my story, shine some light on some dark shit, and just, you know, I hope it makes somebody else's story feel relatable.
Yeah,
So,
and that's all that matters. When you see people that can relate to you, it makes what you're going through a little bit more easy.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, I love you.
Love you
And
too, boo.
We'll see you soon. And thank you guys for tuning in to Schmooze the Podcast. Again, my name is Jonathan. This is Jordan. And we will talk to you guys later.
We out.
Bye.
All right. So